Welcome to Your Next Bold Move. Our show is all about helping you take your next step, whether it's career or relationships or life in general. Hi, and welcome to Your Next Bold Move. My name is Wendy Capland. Today's show is focused on increasing your professional impact while being strategic in how you make decisions. My guest today is Michele Gravelle. Michele is a corporate trainer who works for me in Vision Quest Consulting, my consulting business, and has developed and delivered training programs for corporations and their leaders for many, many years. And I'm delighted to have her here today to talk to us about strategic decision making. Welcome.
Hi, Wendy. I'm delighted to be here. Thanks.
So give us a little bit of overview of what this program is. You and I work together, and you go into corporations and teach this particular program. So just give us a little overview before we dig in.
So the decision-making course that we teach in the corporate setting gives people a systematic framework to help them prepare for their decisions, to help them conduct their decisions, and then to do a little bit of a success analysis afterwards. How well did their decision really, how well did it really work, and is that the process that they want to repeat again, or if not, they can tweak it.
So you and I have picked out some key points to share with people, and we're using my situation as a guinea pig.
Yeah.
Here's my story. I have a request for proposal to do a speaking engagement at a conference, at a big industry conference, and they've asked me to submit a proposal, but they've left it really generic, and they've said, we're interested in having you come and speak on leadership. And I was like, yeah, I could talk about a lot of things. How do I know the right thing to talk about?
Yeah.
And the best thing to talk about?
Okay. The first step is to analyze where you are right now. So you want to assess the current situation, and then we'll be looking at how you define the problem, analyze the solution, plan for implementation, and then measure the success of that. We want to look at what is the current situation.
So the one we want to show is the thermometer?
Yes, and this is really just a reminder to all of us that sometimes decisions can be more complex, again, the more people involved. So tell me an easy decision that you've already made today.
Let's see, an easy decision, well, what to have for lunch.
Exactly. And why was that an easy decision?
Well, that was the only thing in the refrigerator already.
That makes it easy. Yep. Right. And so then, if the thermometer was still up, we'd be walking up as the heat rises or as the decision gets more complex. So what's another decision that you've made today that had a little bit more moving parts or pieces to it?
Well, I got to the studio today and I forgot the flip chart. And so I had to make a decision, should I go back and get it or not?
And
that was
why was that decision a little bit more challenging than what to eat for lunch?
Well, because, as you said, it had a little more moving parts. So I was on deadline. I had you here. I had a number of people here. So there were a lot of things as part of the decision.
And then if we used your situation of needing to respond to this RFP for a speaking engagement as sort of at the top of the thermometer,
yes,
what makes that more complex than whether to go get the easel or what to eat for lunch?
There's a lot more at stake professionally, financially, in regard to this RFP.
Exactly. And so the thing that we want to stress is that it's the decisions at the top of that thermometer, the ones that are high stakes, meaning there's money on the line, your reputation is on the line. So it's the decisions that are at that top of the thermometer that are more complex because they involve people relationships. That's what we want to cover. So to unpack that situation that you're working on a little bit, we'll go to this chart right here. This will just give people sort of a representation of where are you, where do you want to go, and how do you want to get there. So right now, you've received this invitation to submit a proposal for this speaking engagement.
Yep.
And so you're at a choice point of submit the RFP. And in an ideal world, what would you hope to gain out of having your proposal accepted, having just the right course that you've offered to this conference?
Not doing a breakout, but doing a large group, large room.
Okay.
There are 2,700 people coming to this conference, and so I'd like to be in front of 2,700 versus 100 in a breakout session.
Okay, we'll do full conference session here.
Yeah.
And so if you think of the context, all the things that might be floating around in this? We've got potentially 2,700 participants. What are some other factors that might impact which workshop you choose to present or propose to them?
There's a different cost structure, financial structure. If you do a workshop, there's one price point. If you do a full conference plenary session, it's a bigger.
Sure. Okay. Doing this is a really great and simple way to kind of assess the current situation. Here's where you are, here's where you want to go. These are some of the factors that might impact your decision, or people who might impact your decision.
Right.
The higher you go on the thermometer, the more complex. And so the complexity is because you've got all these moving parts here that might impact the decision.
Right.
The goal is to submit a workshop title or workshop offering that will be accepted for the full conference.
Yeah.
Okay. So in a previous conversation, you and I had identified that there were 4 options.
One is executive coaching.
Yep.
I also could go in and submit the proposal focused on women's leadership. Mm-hmm. There's also strategic decision making, and then there's high stakes conversations. So those are the 4.
So this grid that we have on the slide and also on this flip chart here is called paired comparison analysis. And I find that managers in companies love this because it's a quick, easy way to prioritize choices that you have. It's great to have lots of choices, but you can't act on all of them. So how do you decide which of your choices you need to move forward on?
Right.
And so what we'll do is, you see we have the same 4 offerings in the horizontal column as we do in the vertical row. And we're just going to pair them. And I'm going to ask you, so for instance, this first pair, if you could offer coaching or the women's initiative impact versus risk,
right.
Between those two, thinking about the full conference offering, which of those 2 options do you think would be a better choice?
Well, since this particular conference is for men and women leaders, the chance of getting in front of all 2,700 with just a women's piece is probably not as good of an opportunity. So the coaching would probably be a better one.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And so now we'll compare coaching and strategic decision making. So between those 2, which do you think would be a better choice for this audience?
I think for a big session, I think the content of the strategic decision making is more powerful.
Okay, all right. So we'll put...
From a presentation standpoint.
Yeah. Okay, so now we'll compare coaching versus...
Same. High stakes conversation would win for the same reason.
Okay, very good. All right, so moving down, I'm guessing it's going to be the same. So the women's offering versus strategic decision making.
Strategic decision
making. So we take this one. And then women versus high stakes conversation.
High stakes, yeah.
And now strategic decision making versus high stakes.
Depending on what they already have, I might offer something different.
Right.
So I think it's more likely that they'll have something on communications than they will on strategic decision making. So I think strategic decision making would win.
So if we were to just do majority rules here, if we look at our matrix, we see that strategic decision making came up on the board 3 times, versus 2 for conversations and 1 for coaching. So it's pretty potent.
Well, I so appreciate your. It was fun to be the guinea pig and to work through a situation with you. And what I'm hoping is that people who are watching have a chance to say, okay, here are some really tough decisions that I'm trying to make, and how do I maneuver through it?
Right.
Because it can be very complicated. So thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
For being here, for having this conversation with us. You've just had a chance to hear Michele Gravelle talk about strategic decision making, part 1. I'm hoping it gave you a template and a structure to help increase your effectiveness personally or professionally. And thanks for joining us today. In addition to the resources and ideas shared with us by our guests, you can also go online to both of our websites and join our community for additional free support and inspiration. We can be found at visionquestconsulting.com and themagicparties.com, where you'll find everything you need to help you figure out what's next and what might be your next bold move. A big thank you again to our guest, Michele Gravelle, for being here.
Thank you, Wendy.
And thanks to you, our listeners. You are meant to go forth in the world and use your gifts and talents.